What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Content Creator Radio. Jake Bryan here. I hope you guys are excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking about why in the world are people making these same beginning mistakes as photographers. These are beginner mistakes, things that photographers still do and still screw up. Even I've been guilty of these things. Kind of sucks. By the way, I apologize for the audio. I'm in Denver right now in Colorado, and kind of just filming this on the go, so hopefully it comes out all right. Don't get too mad. I'm trying to see how the audio comes out. So, anyways, so a little bit of backstory. What was my first shoot like? So my first shoot was with my friend, and we decided to go to a beach and just go try some different shots and stuff. And I didn't know what to do in terms of. I got there. I was like, oh yeah, I got this. I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos. Right? That's what we all do. And so I get there, and then I'm like, wait, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. Okay, and I just kind of shot and just hoped for the best, right? I kind of just took the angles that I thought I could maybe do and get away with and whatnot. And all I knew was I had been in a high school photography class, and that's all the knowledge that I had of photography. And the shoot came out okay. Really wasn't very good. And half of the photos I couldn't even fix because I shot almost everything in JPEG. So that leads me to number one, the first reason why people are still messing up or making beginner mistakes, or beginners don't even know these things. I was actually walking my friend Cole through a photo shoot for the first time, and I was able to actually walk him through all the things that I was like, I didn't even realize this before. That's where I got the idea for this video is like most people don't know these things about a camera. And so he was able to actually shoot his first engagement shoot, and he did really well. It was super dark. It was like the worst conditions possible, and he pulled it off pretty stinking well, not gonna lie. So the first thing is shoot in RAW. For the love of God, please shoot in RAW. When you shoot in JPEG, you are basically shooting in, like, imagine this. You have a little box, right? And it's just stuck in this tiny little box, and there's nothing you can do outside of this box. There's only so much in here. But I'm going to give you a huge circle. You can have a whole bunch of stuff that you can fit inside here, right? That's a RAW file. A RAW file is a way bigger file, but it holds a ton more data. So say you overexpose and miss every single shot, but you can still bring all of your stuff back with RAW. It's so cool. That's what we did with Cole's photos, because if he shot those in JPEG, literally that shoot would never have happened. So that'd be a huge issue. That leads me to number two. Do not shoot below 1/100th of a second. Now, there are variables to this. I know if you have a tripod doing long exposure, that's great. But for a basic rule, don't shoot under 1/100th of a second for basic portrait photography. And now why? A lot of people shoot and they're like, I'm not getting sharp photos, or they just don't look good. You need to be shooting above 1/100th. I've messed with 1/80th, 1/50th. Doesn't really seem to come out very well. It just doesn't come out very sharp. And that's become a big problem. So that leads me to number three, which is you should underexpose your photos. I'm going to tell you exactly why. When you underexpose your photos, it's way easier to bring back a lot of your shadows and way more of your blacks versus actually bringing your highlights and your whites back. Canon is especially known for this. It's way better to just underexpose with the Canon because it blows out highlights really easily. It's really hard to get them back. So what do I mean by this? Usually you want to shoot about 2 stops lower or just a little bit darker in the way that I do it. Here's a good rule of thumb to go by. When you're shooting and there's a big sky in the background or something, what you should do is actually expose until you can see what that sky looks like, and then you can bring the shadows back in post and it will look awesome. Which is going to lead me to the next reason, or the next, the next issue, problem that most of us make as beginning photographers is we don't shoot to edit, which is kind of the same thing as before, but it's also a little bit different. So when you're shooting to edit, you're thinking, okay, how would I do this to frame this in the edit? Or maybe you leave some extra space so you can add something or Photoshop something in. But a lot of us, we kind of crop in really hard. Or maybe, this is one big thing that I've learned from shooting for Instagram for, I don't know, 2 years now. What we would do is we would take ultra wide shots so we could actually crop in later. And that was actually a huge help for us. Made it way easier for us to actually get our photos because Instagram crops your photos. It's really annoying, especially when you're shooting in a 4:3 ratio. Kind of kills your creative vibe and everything gets cropped wrong when you want to put on Instagram. That's going to lead me to the next thing, which is when it comes to cropping your photos, don't freak out over the quality of your photos, please. And the biggest thing is if you have a good composition, okay? Let's say you have this big photo, right? it is better to have a good composition than an amazing quality photo, right? Now, this sounds kind of weird. There is something to be said for quality. Absolutely, I fully agree with that, and this doesn't usually happen. But if you have a better composition with a crop, it is way better to just have a better composition, okay? Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is that so many of us get so caught up in the gear side of things, right? We're like, oh my gosh, this camera does this and this camera does that. And I know I did that for a little while, but this is the biggest thing that I've learned. Think about it this way. If I was I'm a guitarist, for example. Say you give me a really terrible guitar, okay? And it has brand new strings. It's just like any other guitar, but it's a $50 guitar, right? Does that make me a bad guitar player? No, right? Like, why would you think like that? And if you give me a really nice guitar, that doesn't make me a better guitar player. If you give a brand new person, someone who's never played a guitar before, and expect them to be good by giving them a nice guitar, you're gonna have a really horrible musician. Same thing with a photographer. You give me a phone camera, I'll be able to take a better phone photo than someone could that has no idea what they're doing with the most expensive camera in the world, right? Just because you have nice gear, just because you have a drone or a Mavic or a Sony a7 III, I have one of those. Just because you have one of those doesn't make you a good photographer. You could be a super crappy photographer with a Sony a7 III and a Mavic 2 Zoom or Pro, whatever, and you could be the worst photographer on planet Earth. Just because you have the best equipment doesn't make you any better. But there is something to be said for gear. Gear is a big piece of the puzzle, okay? It is a huge help. When you are trying to shoot certain portraits, there's a huge help in that. When you have a drone, it's easier to get higher up in the sky, right? All of those things, but think about it like this. It is a tool. It is a tool. Just like a guitarist has his guitar, but at the same time, he has his pedals, his amplifier. He has the bass, but he has to get all the gear. That doesn't make him a better or worse guitarist, right? It's just the add-ons. It's the tools that he needs to get the sound that he wants. Just like a photographer needs the tool that they need to get to the photo they want or the look that they want. And I'm not telling you go shoot out with a phone. If you're just starting, absolutely. I still do photo shoots with my phone every once in a while, just to not like paid, like professional stuff, but just like for fun, like just mess around and do some cool photos and stuff. Your phone does way more than you think, and I think getting caught up in your gear is one of the biggest drawbacks because you will literally just drag yourself down, and you're not going to advance as a photographer, as a person, and most likely as a content creator, you're going to have a really hard time advancing if all you're thinking about is your gear because you're going to go broke, okay? Let your jobs pay for your gear is what I always go by, is if you can have your jobs pay for your gear, then you know that you're on the right track because there's a demand for what you're doing, and that's awesome. So, it's a little bit shorter today. I do have to get going. We've been snowboarding a lot. I'm super sore. It's the second day. I'm dead. So I will see you guys in the next episode. My name is Jake Bryan, and thank you guys so much for listening to the Content Creator Radio. I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace out, y'all. Hey guys, just want to say a quick thank you for checking out the Content Creator Radio. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button and listen on all your favorite platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. Until next time, I'll see you in the next podcast.
I swear I like your style. Put you in Chanel cause it's just perfect for your smile. Girl, I swear for you I run the world, I'd run the miles. The way you look